we headed? After spending about a month exploring Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we left beautiful Cumberland Bay for the 40-plus mile windward passage to Marigot Bay in St. Lucia. There we would pick up our first visitors to Little Bird. Yay! As usual, the weather between the islands was rough, but then we got into the lee of St. Lucia and had an awesome cruise into the marina. Marigot Bay is actually more of a resort than a marina, so we had no problem kicking back with pina coladas and rum punch while we waited for our guests to arrive. We also found time to scrub the month's worth of crime off the boat and get Little Bird shipshape.
And then it was game on. Our friends Mike, Margaret, and Stan made the long flights from Santa Cruz, California, and it was time for some fun.
Yay! You're here!
We had a great weather window, so after a quick stop in Rodney Bay for provisions, we headed further north to St. Anne on Martinique, and it was the first French island of our trip. With our new fresh crew, we started to explore Martinique, starting in St. Anne and then visiting several of the small towns on the southern part of the island. It was fun to spend some time with the Santa Cruz gang. We did a couple of nice hikes along some really well-marked trails, ate a ton of great food, and Stan even invented a new cocktail, something we now call the Stan. Each time we anchored, we'd swim down and make sure the anchor was properly set. This spot was particularly deep, so I brought up a handful off the bottom as proof of the check.
Are you gonna bite you?
I don't know what it is. He will.
Yeah. But look, there's another one. He seems very calm right now.
Did you get that at the bottom, Frank?
The French islands were surprisingly different than the independent, mostly ex-British countries we had already visited on the trip. France still must pump a fair amount of money into these territories. The towns were super clean and each had a small town square, usually with a church, and you could definitely find better bakeries and lots of delicious baguettes. In general, these places had a bit more of a European flair, even using the euro as the official currency. The downside was they lacked some of the Caribbean vibe, and also had a lot more tourists and little tour boats coming around. We had a bit of crazy weather for this late in the season, and several days saw some pretty decent squalls. We kept busy though, and Tiff would paddle across the anchorage, rain or shine. We definitely kept up on the wingfoil lessons, taking turns either practicing on the wing when it was windy or towing behind the dinghy when it was calm.
It was crazy how quickly the time flew having guests on board. We had a ton of fun, but barely took any video, unfortunately. Just like that, the visit was over and the gang was headed to the airport for their flights back home.
Right after we dropped our guests off, we headed out of the busy port of Fort de France for the small town of St. Pierre on the island's northwest coast. It ended up being our favorite stop on Martinique, and we were super bummed our friends couldn't experience it with us. The town has a really interesting history. It was actually the capital of Martinique until 1902, when Mount Pelée erupted, destroying the town and killing just about everyone in it. It was never fully rebuilt, and many of the stone buildings are still in ruins. Several restaurants are constructed right within the rubble. At the start of the 20th century, the town was the most European in the Caribbean, even sporting the only proper theater in the islands. The ruins are well preserved, and it was crazy to think of the tragic demise of the town and its inhabitants. Later, we found this awesome place to eat called 1902. The owner and his family were super friendly.
This is something special.
The guy would actually do rounds of shots with each group as they left and paid the bill. And seeing as we were the last table to leave the restaurant, we got the full experience. We couldn't tell if this was something that happened every day or if it was a special occasion. Communication was hard as they only spoke French and we only spoke English. But judging from how many pictures his family took of this third round of shots, we knew it was something a bit unusual. It packed quite a punch, that's for sure.
Who picked the restaurant?
Jiffy.
Yeah, I
Finally
picked
got
it.
one. Even a blind man can find the light switch.
We ended up really enjoying this little town of St. Pierre. We hung out for a couple more days and relaxed a bit after having our friends leave the boat. It was really a beautifully quiet anchorage, and we managed to get out for a couple hikes in the hills above town.
A little hill climb?
The next jump, we would be going a little bit longer in a passage along Dominica all the way up to Guadalupe. But more on that in the next episode.